with Waltz, right? I love this. Oh, he's not as accomplished public speaker. I'm sorry. He's been a governor. He ran for it, then got re-elected, and 6 times in the Congress. The guy has done this plenty of times. But just like the Biden debate, the media builds a caricature, and guess what? He wasn't able to match it. And I didn't even play any other highlight last night on the show than that disgrace of an answer when he was caught lying about China, where we go off to nowhere and we're a middle-class kid, and then I'm a knucklehead. That guy's an idiot.
Yes. Who would have foresaw that the headline coming from Team Harris-Walz out of that debate would be the potential next vice president with the caption, "I'm a knucklehead"? I mean, even Team Harris must have been cringing back at home. And that whole answer was so meandering and evidenced a liar was speaking. He starts off with, by the way, I forgot to give my personalizing biography that would make you like me before I get to why I lied yet again, this time about China. I grew up in a small town where we rode our bikes until the streetlights came on. And I'm very proud of that. What do you mean you're proud of that? So did I. I grew up in upstate New York. We also rode our bikes around in the 70s till the streetlights came on. Doesn't make me a good person. How is that evidence that you're somebody we should elect as vice president? My mom also loved to bake meatloaf, and we had corn on the cob. Doesn't make me qualified to run the country. Anyway, so then he meanders into how he worked on farms, and he's very proud of his service. Okay, nobody attacked your service, but they should have, because your stolen valor is fair game. And then he finally gets around to, I'm a knucklehead. I'm a knucklehead. Why? Because you lied about being in Beijing, in China, in Hong Kong, on the day of Tiananmen Square. Now, if you were in China on the day of Tiananmen Square, it is like I said last night, it's like saying you were in Lower Manhattan on 9/11. If you were there or you weren't. And there's a big difference between being in Lower Manhattan on 9/11, September 11th, 2001, and being in Lower Manhattan November 11th, 2001. Dramatic difference. And that's the essential difference in what he said. He didn't go there until 2 or 3 months later. But he is on the record not only saying he was there, but bragging about it, recounting in detail what it was like. He's a liar. He's lied about so many things in an effort to make himself look good, better, or more important than he is. I mean, he wasn't a retired command sergeant major in the Air National Guard, even though he claimed that he was. He did not serve in Iraq or Afghanistan, as he claimed. He did not bring a weapon into war. He was not given a commendation by the Chamber of Commerce. He did not have IVF. He had intrauterine insemination. His wife did. He only claimed it was the more extreme, difficult method because he wanted to say he had standing to speak with intelligence on IVF. It was a lie. Around every corner, this guy lies to make himself look better. He said he was in Beijing. He wasn't in Beijing. All of it, Paul, is a pattern of somebody who's dishonest. And that's why when he was asked about the latest lie, he started to fall apart before our very eyes. And you could see the panic level rise to the point where he started to just sputter out like an engine at the end and so that's what I learned about governance, and I wish I had stopped speaking about 2 sentences ago.
Yeah. Of the 2 moderators, one was terrible, but that was to be expected. One was better than expected because at least there was the tough question for Waltz to have to answer, and as we've just discussed, he wasn't able to do it. You've had plenty to say about moderators in the past. What did you think of the way the whole thing was run?
You're just trying to trigger me, aren't you?
A little bit.
Trigger me.
A little bit.
Press all my trigger spots. Trigger, thorn. The more I thought about it, the more I just got angrier and angrier over what CBS did last night. I mean, it was better than ABC by a smidgen. It's hard for me to say that they were better because they were disgustingly biased in their question selection, in their follow-ups, in their fake fact checks, in their snide tone, their sneering condescension to the Republican and to Republican voters. I mean, the Media Research Center did a study of the CBS Evening News and Morning News and showed that it's 83 or 84% negative stories for Trump. It's ridiculous. 17% of the stories are either neutral or positive, and 83% of the coverage is negative on Trump. Not as bad as ABC, which I think was 97% negative for Trump, but disgusting. And that was on full display last night. Margaret Brennan embarrassed herself. She completely changed many people's professional opinion of her. She's been very biased against Trump on her Sunday show. She's the one who, on the night of the first assassination attempt, where Trump was still bleeding from his head, criticized his paper statement that he put out saying, I'm okay and God bless, whatever. Oh, he didn't call for his supporters not to retaliate. Irresponsible. What? He's still bleeding. The story is not Trump's supporters getting ready to retaliate. It's that some lunatic almost shot his head off. That's how she saw the moment. So what does that get you? Oh, well, it gets you a vice presidential moderation spot over on CBS News. She was incapable of understanding any Republican argument and didn't have a simple facility with the facts when it comes to basic economic principles like supply and demand. Explain exactly how illegal immigrants are driving up the costs of housing. Hello, McFly. Are you an idiot? It's called supply and demand. You don't have to have an economics degree from Harvard to understand that. She just couldn't. It was, the absolute disdain. And the whole presentation, Tim Walz, too, when he was nailed down on his far left abortion policies and the murdering of babies policies that he did sign into law, even though he denied it, tried to rely when J.D. Vance had him under his thumb on, well, it's just true. What I'm saying is true because ABC News fact checked it at the last debate. That was the whole, are babies being born alive after abortions and left to suffer to death? And they are, especially in Minnesota, where Tim Walz reversed the law. He revoked it. There was a law in place saying you would have to give such a baby life-saving care. He repealed that law and said you only have to give them comfort care, but you do not have to save their lives. And indeed, 8 babies have died while he's been governor because he reversed that law that would have mandated the life-saving efforts. And when JD had him on the ropes about this, his response was, ABC News already fact-checked this at the last debate in one of the most controversial fact checks of all time. No fact check by the CBS moderators on that. No one jumping in at that point to say, Governor Walz, you did sign such a law. The ABC fact check was wrong. There was zero help provided to the Republicans or to J.D. Vance. There were multiple instances where they swooped in to try to save the day for Tim Walz. And just sick of it, Paul. I'm sick of it. Because let me just put one period at the end of this. You open up today's news, and you got the Cook Political Report showing Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are neck and neck in every swing state. She's ahead of him in virtually all of them. They're tied in North Carolina. North Carolina was one swing state Trump did manage to win last time around. And she's above him by about a point. It's all within the margin of error. But he should be crushing her right now. These debates aren't moving the needle. Nothing's moving the needle. But the debate moderators, without allowing fair play, are doing their best to keep it at least tight so she can look like a viable contender, so Tim Walz can look like he could potentially take over. And it's not only unfair, it's just deeply corrupt to the system that's going to elect the next president.
I agree completely. Not to mention all of the problems that are happening, from storms to port shutdowns to the Middle East, all the rest of it there, which all obviously shows failures of leadership at almost every level. But I've also got a theory.
Can I say something on the storm thing?
Please.
Forgive me for interrupting. So they raised the issue of Hurricane Helene, which we have hundreds of Americans dead. We probably have some 600 more we're waiting to find. They could be dead as well. And we've got people do these dramatic rooftop rescues where children are dying, grandparents are dying. Kamala Harris was out in Los Angeles with her celebrity friends like Demi Lovato having beef Wellington while they were begging for help on their rooftops. That's the landing of your question, you dumbass debate moderators. They raise Hurricane Helene. I'm thinking, great, you should do that. When you get breaking news as a debate moderator, the day of the debate or a couple days before, it's a blessing. It's manna from heaven. I can do all my jobs at once, get the actual news into my debate moderation, move this story forward, and hold the powerful to account. So they raise Hurricane Helene and the suffering. What's the landing that they use? isn't this proof that there's climate change and what we need to do about it? The climate change is making these storms worse, which is not true. It's not true. If go back and look at the hurricane force over time, we had the most devastating some 30 years ago. The ones that have come along this season actually haven't been more severe than we've seen in past years. They predicted absolute disaster this fall. It didn't come. We had one. We've had many that are equally, if not more devastating than Helene. That's not the landing. The landing is the total lack of action and accountability by the woman who's asking us to make her the next president, who's the sitting vice president, who is too busy eating beef Wellington to give a damn. No one will ask a tough question like that. They've got to go back to their pet issues. They gave, 7 minutes to abortion, more to climate change, had to be another 7 to January 6th. People don't care about climate change or January 6th. The polls show us that. They care, 1 or 2, about immigration. And when the two candidates started to fight on immigration, what did they do? They cut the mics to move on. Just the bias it's up here. Right? I feel like I'm drowning in it. And you, as a Republican, you watch it, and all you know when it's over is, I don't like the moderators. I'm annoyed. I love JD. At the Trump-Kamala Harris debate, you were like, I'm frustrated with Trump. But the media bias is so ubiquitous. It's so steeped in. All we can do now is try to manage our ways through it. And I'm really thinking this morning, we have to find a new approach. I just think maybe we just don't participate. Maybe it's a hard and fast rule that if we have one on an NBC or a CBS or an ABC, there has to be one on a Fox News or with an independent, somebody like me or Ben Shapiro, whatever. You can't just say we're only going to go into these forums that the Democrats control.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, we've talked about it before. I think that you go, okay, look, I'll do a town hall on one night, you can do another town hall on another night, and just go, look, we're not going to play this nonsense, because as soon as you put us together, we know which one you're going to cast as good guy, bad guy. You're the best in the biz. Thank you so much for the chat. Everyone loves listening to the show. Megyn Kelly Show on podcast, Sirius XM, and of course, always here on Paul Murray Live. Love you, Dal. Talk to you soon.
Great to see you, my friend. Till the next time.